My name is Helena Kaufman, and today we have Dr. Moondust with us to answer some questions that came through on the Moondust Cosmetics website and social pages. Dr. Moondust is an award-winning scientist and president of Moondust Cosmetics. Welcome, Dr. Moondust. It's good to have you with us. What should we know now about COVID-19? And can you speak to us as to who is most at risk and how can we know if it might impact each of us?
So let's talk. So firstly, according to an Icelandic scientist, COVID-19 is highly contagious and highly lethal to a small subset of the population, while most people will get milder symptoms. And in New York, in some studies, they found that obesity, high blood pressure, and diabetes are strong risk factors for the virus. Now, another fact is that the World Health Organization has determined that older adults and adults with underlying medical conditions are at risk of getting a more serious COVID-19 infection. Another surprising thing that has come to light is the gender disparity, in that infected males have quite a higher mortality rate than females. And studies from China, South Korea, Italy, and the US suggest this. And in New York, in some studies, they found that the difference is as high as 68% mortality in infected males versus 32% in females. Some Indian researchers have postulated that this may be due to special receptors in the testicles to which the virus can bind. So men need to be extra cautious. Now, a dear friend of mine recently lost somebody in Italy to coronavirus. And maybe we can just take a moment to reflect on the countless lives lost and cut short by this terrible pandemic. Now, the thing with him was that he was an asthmatic who was recovering from bronchitis, so he had to go on a ventilator. And the thing about ventilators that people may not know is that actually more than 50% of COVID-19 patients that go onto ventilators do not survive. So prevention is really the best policy. So now that we've talked a little bit about risk factors, it's important for everybody to be able to assess their own vulnerability to the virus. So, for example, do you think that a 90-year-old man with diabetes and hypertension would be would be at high risk, very high risk, or extremely high risk of getting a serious COVID-19 infection?
I don't know.
Well, let's look at the risk factors. How many risk factors does he have? Well, there's
Oh,
his age, right? So there's his age, there's his gender, and he has two predisposing diseases. So I'd say that this gentleman could be at an extremely high risk of getting a serious COVID-19 infection if he's exposed to an infected person.
so these are some new elements that we can consider. It's not as
Mhm.
simple, this evolving information about the disease and also for us. So we're now very well aware of all the lives that are sadly cut short and lost worldwide. And some of us have been directly and tragically impacted in our circles, as you have mentioned. For those of us
Mhm.
continuing in our communities, Dr. Moondust, do you have any other health tips for us given the evolving nature of the information about this virus?
Well, there are a couple of things. Um, Most people think of COVID-19 as a respiratory illness, but some patients have been presenting with other symptoms like stomach pain and diarrhea. So if you have diarrhea and get dehydrated, it's important to remember that just drinking an electrolyte solution from your local pharmacy may help save your life. And naturally, if you have any of the serious COVID-19 symptoms, you should be seeking medical attention immediately. Now, another thing that we should look at during a pandemic like the current one that we're in is that drinking excess alcohol can actually suppress a variety of immune functions, and it can also lower one's resistance to various infections. So this is particularly also very important for patients recovering from COVID-19.
Mhm.
However, on another note, alcohol is an excellent disinfectant, and there are actually reports that alcohol concentrations of 70% and higher actually kill the virus in 30 seconds.
Now, Dr. Moondust, much has been said about the situation making people come together more in one way or another. How can we stay calm and help others stay calm, given that there's so much stress and anxiety in self-isolation and also in managing all the new information that we're getting? I wonder if you have anything to say about how we can stay calm and still help others stay calm as well.
Sure. Actually, yoga and meditation can
Mhm.
calm the mind in times of trouble. Meditation can just mean sitting quietly or listening to classical music. And both of these activities have been found to be beneficial for human health in scientific studies. Uh, Pet time can be soothing and reduce stress.
Mhm.
Pet owners are actually have a lower risk of heart disease, and studies have shown that simply petting a dog can lower one's blood pressure. However, obviously, if you are infected with COVID-19, you should also be practicing social distancing with your pets as well.
Mhm.
Now, another little tip is that chamomile tea has also been found to help people relax and fall asleep, possibly because it acts like a class of tranquilizers called benzodiazepines. So, a cup of chamomile tea is naturally preferable to taking some heavy drugs like that.
Well, that's certainly something I can drink to because that's been a traditional family remedy for us. The chamomile tea has been a favorite and it is still now in my household. Dr.
Right.
Moondust, as we come to the end of our session today, I would want to ask you if you can take out your scientific crystal ball for just a moment and perhaps share some opinions, what your overall opinion is on what we are facing and what do you think the prospects are as of now?
Well, the good news is that this is a relatively stable virus and it hasn't mutated significantly so far. So containment should be possible by studying China's example. However, there have been some reports out of South Korea that patients recovering from or that have recovered from COVID-19 are experiencing reinfection or reactivation of the virus. Now, I've talked to my Chinese doctor about this, and he said that actually recovering patients in China, have been receiving follow-up acupuncture treatment, and that it seems to have prevented this from happening there. Also, on a positive note, certain countries are considering issuing immunity cards as part of universal antibody testing. And the point is that people who have immunity can go back into the workforce. They'll be allowed to travel and socialize normally. And the whole idea behind this is that the more people that have antibodies or immunity to the virus, the less of a threat it is in the world. So that seems like a good idea.
Dr. Moondust, I'll just ask you for a final comment in a moment, but I would just like to let our listeners and our viewers know where they can find out more about your work and also about Moondust Cosmetics. So I just wanted to let people know that if you did wish to visit the website, it is moondustcosmetics.com. And there you will find posts by Dr. Moondust, compendium of her articles as well as books that she has authored. And more immediately as the summer sunshine comes to us, very useful articles of interest about sun and skin care. And you can also find Dr. Moondust and Moondust Cosmetics on Facebook as Moondust Cosmetics and on Instagram as @Moondust_cosmetics. So in closing our session today, I just wondered, Dr. Moondust, if you have any final comments for us today, or perhaps about your own practices of being calm and staying healthy.
Well, one comment I do have, which is that apparently the World Health Organization has stated that it's not clear if people are gaining immunity after infection with virus. But there are some promising results with rhesus monkeys that suggest that once they're infected with COVID-19, they do form antibodies and have immunity against reinfection.
Of interest, and perhaps that will also come up with further questions on social media pages or on the website for Moondust Cosmetics. Thank you so very much, Dr. Moondust, for joining us today and sharing some information on our readers' and listeners' questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, and stay healthy and be well.
You too.
Thank you.